I-Beam that Thijs is running versus the 2 of Glaive-bound Adept. So basically, Viper has 1 extra Glaive-bound, Thijs has the I-Beam. So again, I'll be interested to see if the You okay?
Just for a second there, I don't know if you were looking at the camera with Thijs, but like for a second it looked like he didn't know how his door worked. He sort of walked up to it and just stopped with this puzzled look on his face, as if he didn't quite understand the complex mechanism of his door handle.
Yeah, well, as long as he remembers how to sit down, that'll be all we would need from him, really, at this point. But yeah, the difference is I just want to see that I-Beam, because we didn't see it yesterday come into effect at all. I don't even think we saw it drawn for Thijs yesterday in his match versus RDU. So, again, excited just to see if it makes any form of impact. But honestly, it's all just going to be about those early game card draws and minion bases. And whether that includes Megatherodon or not, we'll have to see. And having access to a weapon on curve. We saw a bit early today what happens in the mirror when your opponent has weapons and you don't. It gets pretty unfun pretty quick.
And honestly, talking about Viper's frame of mind and, his potential confidence going into the relegation bracket, he played out what could have been a very similar series against Blythe last night, which we had the luxury, I guess, of not casting in the end because of the weird shenanigans where it ended up on the Americas broadcast instead. But actually just, watching that as an interested onlooker, Viper was 2-0 up in that series and then almost did the same thing as Zim, where he made a couple of crucial mistakes that allowed Blythe back into it, but just at the very last, he was able to just seize it in a 5-game series. So Viper, I think, could do with just like a clean 3-0, 3-1, no nonsense, no fuss, no muss, just get the job done, clean things up, remind everyone that you are, one of the best players in Europe. Viper is a freaking world championship runner-up.
Yeah, runner-up,
for God's
exactly.
sake. Like, let's not forget that. And I do think that he has fallen under the radar a little bit based on his performance this season, but he still has the capabilities to ascend to the highest highs.
Of course, 110% there. Viper going to be on the Demon Hunter on top. And of course, there's the mirror, so Thijs is going to be on the same. Spirit Jailer and a Marrow Slicer is starting to... Oh, and a One Maker. These are ticking all the boxes I was talking about earlier on for Thijs in his opening hand. And Viper, although less so, he has the only other good thing really you can get, which is a skull that's going to be on the left on curve if he wants it. So really, really big deal for him there to have something to answer the early aggression that Thijs is going to put down now.
Well, 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 here we are, Raven. What do you think?
I've never seen it. I told you earlier, so I've never seen it. I've
all
made
that
the play
unspent
before,
mana.
But, yeah.
You don't pick the one.
One Maker.
It's fine. Like, I think technically the curve makes sense because even if he plays it on 2 there, he doesn't have a turn 3 play anyway, right? So he just ends up floating turn 3. Like, what's he going to do? Play 3 mana Bloodfen Raptor with an unactivated Shard Shatter Mystic? No.
Exactly. If the Mystic was active, then we can talk about the turn 2. But yeah, I completely agree. Just draw the card. I think it's worth way, way, way more to Viper than a little bit of chip damage early in the game.
You sound so weary about it. We've talked about this a million times. Just draw the card.
And he did, so yeah, good job.
Yeah. Great.
It's early Marrow Slicer from Thijs there. Wants to keep hold of the minions on board. And although this, to an extent, gives Thijs a nothing turn next turn, even if he just ends up hero powering a mana burning, that's probably just good enough to negate the use of the coin there.
You even swing here? I like this hold. Yeah, I like this hold. This makes sense to me.
Next turn is flexible of Glaive-bound or Shard Shatter and then Skull, so the swings can help solidify the Skull play on 6.
Well, yeah, also he has 2 Glaive-bounds and a Blade Dance in his hand right now, right? Which is 3 things that would just really do with a weapon being equipped, which I think is just 1 too many to be going down to 1 charge, even with a Skull in your hand. I was talking about this dynamic in the previous series, right? Where it's like, well, I don't have more weapons in my hand. I do have cards that want weapons to be equipped, but I also have a Skull, which might draw me more weapons. So do I swing or not in this scenario? But I think here, it's slightly more tilted in the direction of holding. So I agree with this decision from Viper.
Right. Actually work out okay for Viper. Gets away with his mana burn to an extent. Because on this board, I don't really think he wants to Glaive-bound anything here. It doesn't really look that nice. The swing comes down from Thijs, so now the Shard Shatter could look like a pretty nice recovery option here.
Indeed. Now Marrow Slicer has come into hand, which I think makes that swing look a lot more attractive this turn.
It does. Viper is starting to slip a little bit on health right now, only down to 18, and with no Eldrazi Warblades in sight. I do think he needs to go for that skull next turn, but if he swings this turn, then to an extent, he might not be able to swing next... not next turn, but yeah, he might not be able to swing next turn because he might need to swing the turn after for the Glaive Bound. So I wonder, like, he could hold that one turn if he really wanted to.
I think once we're talking about, like, turn 7... probably the only thing you really want to be holding the weapon charge for is the Blade Dance at that point. I think you'll always find a way to activate a Glaive Bound when you have that much mana available, right? But I think with the Blade Dance still in hand, I think that is definitely something to think about in terms of weapon management. But I'm not as 100% convinced as you are that he's playing Skull next turn. We always seem to have this argument, but I do think there is a lot of merit to playing a Glaive Bound Adept before you Skull in a lot of spots because, you know, tempo is king. And yes, you can end up with more tempo from casting a Skull if you hit perfect discounts. But I think, you know, Glaive Bound on curve is pretty difficult to turn down in a lot of spots. So I'm looking at Swing Glaive Bound next turn, then the potential of Marrow Slicer, Twin Slice, Blade Dance the turn after that, and then Glaive Bound again on the following turn, all potentially without ever having to cast a Skull. Raven, what do you think about that?
It hurts me at my core, subtle. But I was just looking at Thijs. I think
never mind. We probably just do that, right?
Play the Skull, yeah. Is that where we're at? I will just say quickly that I was agreeing with the way Thijs went about that turn. Initially, it's like, do I Lapidary just to open up the Skull? It's kind of bad, but what are my other options? They're not quite as powerful. And at the end, you saw him like Lapidary and kind of just shrug because it's like, yeah, it's not a good turn, but it actually opens up many good turns going forward. So
right,
yeah. And this does have the benefit from Magtheridon that he can actually just kill one of the 1/3s already, right? Unless he wants to clear it now. I was wondering whether you hold. What if you hold? That's madness. That's madness.
What?
Oh my god, he just got the Blade Dance as well.
He just gets 4 extra damage to the face. Yeah, that's insane.
Misses? He missed 3?
No, he needs that trade for the security afterwards, right?
Yeah.
He needs that trade to happen into the 5/1 if the Blade Dance hits there, so then his weapon attacks the 1/3, or else he ends up taking way too much damage.
Yeah, he strictly missed 3 damage with that outcome, but it was an outcome that was positive for him anyways.
It was an outcome where he gets to push 4 extra, so he actually gained 1 damage that way.
Oh, sure.
Now there is just a 12/12 in play. And those fragments busting that discount on the Eldrazi Warblades is a very big deal here.
And also just making the Militia worse. It's a double whammy there, isn't it? Militia, one of the cards that can catch up to a Magtheridon.
Chaos Strike now.
I'm a little bit surprised he silenced there. How many fragments does he have in his deck?
Thijs currently has 1 remaining in his deck. Oh, look, that's 21.
Oh, with hero power. Yeah, I didn't actually have the hero power. Seems to be a theme today. Wow, that's just game, and Magtheridon gets the job done. And honestly, it's why I like the card, and I think we talked about this a week or so ago, where there just isn't a card that does the same thing that exists, right? Like, sometimes you do just win games. Sometimes it's just not answered as a 12/12. And that was even done with a Blade Dance that was actually guaranteed because of the setup Viper had, of course, anyway. But it's not like it's the hardest combo to ever pull off either. It's very doable. So, like, it's why I personally still like the card a lot. And we see it pay off for Viper there, getting very quickly turned into a very straightforward win there in game number 1.
So firstly, Raven, you can't bait me into looking at the deck tracker to look something up for you in a question you asked, and then have me look back and have to notice that there's lethal on board as well. Like, what are you bringing to this relationship at this point, Raven? Come on, I feel like I'm doing all the work here.
Okay.
But yeah, outside of that, like as soon as the Magtheridon was drawn, I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess we just do that at this point. Like I wasn't expecting it to go as perfectly as it ended up going for Viper, because a lot of the time you hit the 5/5 and then you need the extra source of damage to throw in there, and you have to weapon down one of the 1/3s, and then that wouldn't have been the 2-turn lethal setup, but it was still a very reliable setup for creating counter pressure, which he definitely had to do at some point. Which I think was so important. And I think that's what you're talking about, right? When you say that there's no other real card that can go from, oh, I'm miles behind on board to boom, now I'm threatening lethal. Yeah, like now it's just game over the other way.
It's so powerful. But also, the Soul Fragment from Thijs, if he hadn't have drawn it and got the actual Aldraki reduced, he could have played it and healed so close, but so far. But yeah, Viper is going to be leading 1-0, but we are going to go to a break while we set up our game number 2 of this series. So don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back with some more Hearthstone Grandmasters.
Pets to the hand growing up. Many frogs. Used to catch a lot of frogs.
I had 2 goldfish, when I was at 8, I think.
We got our first cat. His name was Tiger. He was a barn cat.
Probably 100 to 200. They were all goldfish, and they all died relatively quick.
My sister got a dog. His name was Primo.
Most recently, we have a cat called Ember, which my family fails to call by name because they just try to like call her like that, but her name's Ember.
My little brother got a cat. Oh gosh, I don't know his cat's name. I moved out of the house before he got that cat.
I had a cat growing up, and his name was Charlie, which in English would translate as Charlie.
The girl I was with at the time had 2 cats.
I had a bunch of pets growing up. I don't know if I want to give out their names that I remember, because I might use those for other purposes, but
The girl I'm with now has a cat, and her name is Kiki. So lots of cats, lots of dogs. Always love having an animal in the household, at least one.
Welcome back, everyone, to our Hearthstone Grandmasters final day of the week and final day of the round-robin stage here in Season 2 in the European region. We've got Viper and Thijs. Viper taking a win in the Demon Hunter Mirror in a pretty spectacular fashion with the Magtheridon just pulling it out of the bag right at the end there. It does mean he is going to be leading this series. And in our game number 2, I believe it's going to be Demon Hunter once again for Thijs, but Viper going to be on the Mage now.
Yeah, and a slightly unusual build of Tempo Mage as well, as he's finding room for that two imprisoned observers in the list as well. This was a tech that Jambray, UK player, messed around with for a while, but he was doing it in a version that cut Mana Cyclone and instead chose to play Imprisoned Observer. And Imprisoned Observer is a very powerful Hearthstone card if you get to play it on turn 3, or maybe turn 4, or maybe at a push turn 5. The problem is how terrible of a top deck it becomes later in the game, which is not really a breed of card that Tempo Mage tends to play. Most Tempo Mage cards are decent at best top decks. Decent at worst top decks in the late game, right? Because even something like Ray of Frost, even though it's such a low value card, if you pick it up off the top in the late game, it's still one full turn of stalling for you in a lot of situations. So I do worry a little bit about this Imprisoned Observer inclusion. I'm not a huge fan of it, but certainly can see the upsides of it if it does fit into your early turn.
Yeah, that's it. And the cuts seem to be one Arcane Intellect and the one, say, like Devolving Missiles some players play, because he still is playing the Conjurer's Coin in there as well. So slightly less card draw, but with this kind of opening soul, who cares? Cramp Session and 0 mana lab partners. Seems good to me. I'm a little bit unhappy seeing the 1-2 play from Thijs.
Well. This hand is certainly going places.
Yeah, which route is he going to take, though? That's the thing. It's like when you look at your sat-nav and it's just like, wait, it shows you 3-4 different routes to go to the same place.
One of them just goes straight through the middle of a lake that it didn't realize was even there.
Yeah. I've 100% got completely lost down like a dark road surrounded by a forest because the thing told me it was the best way to go, and it just lied. I legitimately just got lost. I was scared for my life.
I think I like partner coin cram this turn.
It's most consistently going to open up the game, isn't it? Yep. He draws a ton of cards, builds up the board that pretty much does require an answer. I think even though the minions don't look it stat-wise, the spell damage effect that these two lab partners have has to be respected by Thijs. What? That's a 2-mana 2/2 that gives you an evocation.
Yeah, that is true. You raise a valid point.
Might even see Twin Slice get involved here. One Twin Slice and a hero power to kill one, double trade into the other. Thijs does have the I-beam, of course, that can be pulled from that double jump. A lot of the decks,
That's
it is
true.
like always a skull, but not in this one. And he gets it. There we go. Insane. You told me this was going to be the pull, then why not?
He's actually not going to use it here. Can just efficiently deal with the board right now, but that does start, of course, floating that I-beam now into the middle of his hand, where it's not going to be outcastable for quite some time.
Yeah, and especially considering you would imagine Thijs wants to play Marrow Slicer next turn, which then starts to put another card in the way, and so on.
Right.
So, also, Magtheridon, not the most dumpable card, right? It's not something you can just throw down and be, oh, okay, it's out the way now, I can just throw it away, because obviously it has its effect of giving your opponent minions.
So how do you feel about just discarding Shenvala right now?
I was going to ask you the same question.
Yeah, so I don't really think like you have too high expectations of it living this turn, but I also feel like it's kind of just in your hand and you don't need it to be. I think that I'd much rather have that Shenvala be a space for an evocation card on the following turn, perhaps. Because I'm all in, personally, on trying to get this giant out in play as fast as possible, but one maker into a Ray of Frost certainly helps you to do that as well.
Yeah, there was a third option of ping the 2/1, and because you're going to pop off next turn potentially, then you can take the slightly slower turn. But I do agree that probably doesn't do enough based on what your hand is, right? Then your hand is one maker Shenvala stuck there for another turn or so. So I do like one or the other actually being played.
Right. I do lean towards the Shenvala, honestly. I think you know, I think generally when this card reached consensus, because it was one of the debated cards early on, of like, well, are you supposed to play this card? Some people are cutting it from their lists. Like, some people say it's trash. I think the consensus was reached when the people who did like the card started to realize that you just play it on 3 a lot of the time, and then that's just
it has to be killed.
Fine. Yeah. All right, let's go. Let's get some giants in play.
Did want Viper to go a little bit earlier than this, though.
I do respect the moment of consideration because he just drew Conjurer's Calling, so then there's the debate of whether you want to hold on until you can do it all in one turn and protect your giant, right?
Oh. I mean, he can make that decision while he's doing this, right? Because if the giant becomes 0, he can choose whether he wants to giant alone this turn or giant Conjurers next turn. I still think this turn happens no matter what.
That's a good point.
I mean, it didn't take ages. You know, the rope wasn't burning, right? So that's, you know, level number 1. So
Wait. Are you really cycloning here? Cyclone. I mean, obviously, I know Cyclone is pretty good in terms of getting you resources, but you have Icicle and Frostbolt, right? You could have Icicled the minion, drawn a card, Frostbolted face to protect Giant because you lock out basically all removal at that point. You only got 3 cards off the Cyclone anyway.
What would it have to be, though?
I feel like that was just better.
It would have to be Second Slice, Twin Slice, Blade Dance?
I grow impatient.
Uh-huh.
To kill this giant?
I mean, the big deal, like, okay, forget about protecting the giant. He didn't cast an Icicle on a frozen target that turn. And he only got 3 cards off his Mana Cyclone anyway. So he's only net 2 cards already, and it's a random card, not a card from his deck. And he could have just thrown in a Frostbolt alongside that.
Such a beautiful shield.
That's true. Maybe that was a little bit autopilot. Of, well, you do the Sorcerer's turn into Cyclone because it gets you spells. You know what I mean? As opposed to doing anything else.
Oh,
oh my.
All right.
Mactherodon, you need to do your work this game for Thijs if you want to get a win here because it's one of those games.
It is. How illegal is the trade? Okay. Viper decides not very illegal.
No, I like this because something that Viper can just do now is play enough minions on board that Mactherodon doesn't work. Okay, not right now, but I mean, I like trading off the board so it can't trade into his board, right?
Okay.
So I think the one way you can make this almost impossible is if you start stacking minions. Mactherodon, you need to kill 3 of those cultists, and they need to be able to be summoned on the board to kill them. And he's got time, right? Because obviously Mactherodon plus, whatever can't happen yet. There is a risk Thijs could just play, like, if he drew exactly Shard Shatter now, he could play Mactherodon now, and then go for it, but there's a chance it could get transformed, I guess, from the random spells.
No. Yeah, he couldn't, because he'd be dead on board if he did that.
Sure. Yeah, at this point, yeah. This is one of the most aggressive tempo mage games I've seen in a while, actually, just in the way it's played out. Normally, I think we're getting too used to some of the long drawn-out ones. Oh.
Okay. That's pretty good.
It's actually just the Mactherodon combo.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So
that's completely insane. He does have to take 20 in the process, which means any charge damage off this next Conjurer's Calling will be able to end the game. Wand Thief could potentially get there now as well. But not if he chooses to go Conjurer's Calling first. Oh, the dragon! I forgot! The dragon is so clutch! The extra board space!
You just can't do it now. You just can't.
That's
what I was talking
insane.
about. You just can't do it.
Yeah. So I was thinking he was going to end with 5 minions in play, so all Thijs would have to do is find some way to deal with one of them.
Right.
Which, maybe I-Beam could do or something else, but the fact that he's got so many big boys in play now is just such a big difference.
What to do.
I think you just brain freeze this 1/3.
Yeah, get it out of the way. You don't want anything that potentially interrupts your minions being on board, so just kill it. Just kill it.
I can't tell you what the punish is that this 1/3 contributes to, but I'm sure there is one, and I'm going to kill it.
You know what I can tell you, though? There isn't a punish if you kill it. There just isn't the cards, right? I guess... Wait, would there be... He's played 2 of the 0 costs. So it would have to be... No, because of the death rattle. You know what the punish would be? Oh, no, it wouldn't work. Yeah, no. He's already played 2 of the 0 costs, right? So it wouldn't work. It's fine. I'm trying to desperately work it out.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you having some kind of episode?
I'm excited. I'm fine.
Okay.
All the things I was thinking of required Thijs to still have 3 0 cost cards in his hand, which he obviously doesn't.
Right.
So yeah, it just can't be done. It's just a game. McThurdon so close but so far as Viper takes the lead, or continues the lead, should I say, in this series, 2-0 over Thijs now. And that, like I said, was actually one of the most aggressive mage games we've seen for a long time. I feel like, at least recently, a lot of these tempo mage games have gone to the slow value-based game plan, whereas Viper was like, oh no, hey, guess what? I've drawn some cheap giants, let's go. And yeah, he made it work with that Conjurers.
Yeah, he absolutely did. Pretty good outcomes off the Conjurers as well, hitting such high health targets. Likely didn't make an impact there, but could have done in a Blade Dance world, of course, because that's generally the big answer. Sometimes you do get that turbo start, you Conjurers calling your Giants, and then both of your 8 drops have like 6 health, and then the Demon Hunter's just able to clear it up really nicely with a Blade Dance on the following turn. But that was not the reality there, and now Viper in this series just has his Control Priest left to win with, to try and get himself over the line to a bit more of a respectable record at the end of the season. He will end 2-5 if he's able to take down Thijs in this final game.
Yeah, and this might not be the most comfortable feeling for Viper right now, because currently, up until today, I believe, Viper is actually 3-7 with Priest in GM, which is not one of the results you really want to be going into your potentially game-winning or match-winning moment going in there. So Viper does have a chance to turn this around and at least get a very important win now, and less important for the outcome of Viper's results in Grandmasters this season, but more just so he can say, okay, I ended it 3-0, as you mentioned earlier, 3-0, clean sweep versus Thijs. Got to feel good to end at least on that.
And just to cover Thijs' situation, because we haven't really talked about it too much here, and I'm sure he has a legion of fans and onlookers hoping to know what the overall situation is. He is safe. The relegation bracket positions are decided in Division A now after our opener. It's Bunny Hopper and Viper who are both going to find themselves down there. However, a win here for Thijs actually could have put him in the conversation or winning the division overall, depending on how other results go around him. So there's still certainly a lot to play for here for Thijs, because remember, finishing towards the top of Division A means that you get advanced seeding in the playoffs bracket, meaning you essentially get a free win. You just start deeper in the bracket than everyone else does. So still plenty to play for here for Thijs. This is not a freebie game whatsoever, because this is a hungry young competitor still. You might want to paint him as just a streamer at this point, but he is absolutely not.
He's awfully good at drawing Jailer on 1, though, I will say that. That skill has impressed me greatly. Decent openings again from both players. I think Viper having that Twilight Drake could turn out very, very nicely for him, even though it's not going to be the biggest Twilight Drake in the world. It might just be big enough. But Thijs still has access to that Marrow Slicer, so not too bad combined with the Glade Bound means over a couple of turns at least, you'll probably be able to answer it.
He said it's not going to be that big, but Viper certainly has the potential to make it quite big, because he could have even chose to go with Renew there to increase his hand size alongside the Sethic Veil Weaver if he wanted to, but obviously Renew does have a ton of value in this matchup as just a heal to your own face.
Coining this out is also going to give Thijs the option to, we can foresee, of course, to actually Shard Shatter the Twilight Drake as well, if required, along with a Weapon Swing. Does feel bad, though. The Twilight Drake soaks a ton of damage. You'd much rather just silence it and tell it to go away.
Oh, I know, Viper. Oh, I wanted to play the 4-6 so badly. Deactivated the Cleric of Scales, which, to be fair, he's picked up a pretty clutch Raise Dead here just to make sure that he is almost certainly never running out of value at this point.
And also, he has increased his hand size, right, with this play?
That's true, yeah. But 4-6 would require an answer. It would mean that Thijs can't just do straight-up proactive things this turn, like he now pretty much has the freedom to do.
Bit of a weird turn from Thijs, which is the outcome of him actually pointing out the 4-1. Like, Kane's fine, don't get me wrong, but Kane can be a little bit more impressive later on. I was even looking at whether it's a swing face equip the war blades this turn.
Yeah, awkward turn for Thijs, but he's just fighting hard for board here. Talked about this early on in the day as well, where this matchup can really be dictated by who gets control of the board early. For as long as Thijs is in control of the board, he kind of gets to dictate where the damage goes, and that means that he can potentially get repetitive damage from minions by picking up the odd little value trade here and there as well. That is very, very important in the matchup because it just comes straight down to every point of direct damage in Thijs' deck versus every point in healing in Viper's deck. Viper wins that fight. So Thijs generally needs to be looking to stick some minions to attack face for one or two turns.
It's going to be a clean way to kill this Twilight Drake off. Probably not what Viper wanted to see, honestly. And I guess that's the reward for Thijs there for holding that swing.
This Pyro Apotheosis combo is going to get some work done. Maybe not this turn, but in the coming turns. The problem is Viper will want or feel the need to Wave of Apathy starting this turn because it's already a ton of damage being built up on the board that he doesn't want to take. If he waves this turn, he can't pair it with the Cabal Shadow Priest, which is obviously incredibly effective next turn. If that's the case, how does he fill the gap?
I mean, it's just Twilight Drake heal again, okay. It can test the Glaive Bound anyway.
It's 10 on board. Can you take 10? You have Pyro Apo. You can probably take
that's what I mean, right? Like, it's that one turn, and if it gets traded into, fantastic. If it doesn't, then you can start doing things. You can steal the Glaive Bound, trade into the Cane. Things start to add together, and like you said, the Pyro Apotheosis, even if you end up gaining all the health because you have the board, then that's still health. You still take it.
Right.
I really like the Drake.
Yeah, Drake heal into Wave, Cabal into
Pyro.
Probably the Pyro Apo turn. The turn after that does look like the curve. Wow, okay.
This does mean that without the consume magic, it becomes quite likely this Drake becomes an unkillable healing machine with the Apotheosis, to be fair. So there is the other way to think about it, where you could just make one Giganto minion right now.
Yikes! Yeah, that hurts. That certainly hurts if you're Viper.
Can he ever greed it again and go Raise Dead here? Skull makes it awfully scary, but he did see that there was a only one reduced now because of the way the Soul Fragment kicked out. I don't know, what if he raises Dead into Twilight Drake? Am I getting too obsessed with Twilight Drake right now? Maybe.
You might be. You might be.
What is the rest of, what does the turn look like if he doesn't? I guess that's my question.
Well, I mean, you can look at it the other way and say, what does the turn look like if he does? And he raised Deads himself down to 19, and there's 9 left on the board, and your opponent has Skull cards in their hand? Like, that sounds...
A Skull card, right?
Yes, sure. That sounds terrifying.
But if you don't die, you heal for 1 million.
Okay.
You don't pick the one, see?
This is playing right into Viper's plan right now. Never mind, no it isn't. That mana burn is absurd.
Burn away.
Burn this man's mana, Thijs.
He can still help with this though, right? He still has the Pyro turn.
Yeah, but up before the mana got burned, he had Pyro, Apotheosis, Thoughtsteel, Raised Dead, Draconic Studies. Like
Yeah.
he could play his entire hand essentially. Now he can't fit in the Thoughtsteel alongside all of that, so the healing is reduced significantly.
Still think he has to go for it though, right? He's now way too low to not consider healing now.
It's only 3 spells now, though.
I mean, if he doesn't, he's just dead, isn't he?
Yeah.
So that's why I know it's not perfect because it doesn't line up, but it's 3 waves of healing, which is pretty big because he's going to basically go back up to full.
Yeah, don't forget about the Raised Dead in this mix, though. And after this one, 2 of these minions are going to die here. It's actually not as big a heal as you might expect, especially when it leaves the 6-1 up on board. None of those have Taunt.
Nope. Does have Cleric next turn, though, that could help him out. And this Pyro does have to be dealt with. We can see that there's a Blade Dance or a Shard Shatter, but I think, honestly, this is well worth a Blade Dance this turn. Keep this 6-1 up.
Yeah, protecting the 6-1 could be a very big deal indeed. Especially when the Pyro that most cleanly answers it is just already sat hanging around on the board. Oh, okay.
All
There's
that.
a Soul Shear now. Yep.
That's also fine. They're spend the mana equipping the Marrow Slicer. Okay.
Yeah, like it.
I was just trying to think why I wouldn't play the companion quickly there, but yeah, if he wants to play the Marrow Slicer, of course he needs the mana. But I do like this, just protecting the Glade Bound. Even if it did end up using a Blade Dance, it was probably worthwhile.
Right.
There is a wave now.
I think he might need help from the Mage Scribe at this point.
Or the Cleric.
Or the Thoughtsteel.
Or the Twilight Drake?
No, we've gone too far.
Okay.
No, definitely not
reverse,
that one.
Reverse.
Yeah. Because Thoughtsteel at this point could find Viper the I-Beam, which could potentially be a useful card in this position. Obviously, second Apotheosis and Renew are both potentially insane here.
Quickly. Looks like he's going to go for the Renew.
Oh, there's so little time to make all these decisions.
Breath of the Infinite.
Breath. Yep.
Twilight Drake breath.
Yep.
Twilight Drake.
Twilight Drake first. You have another dragon. Yep.
Oh. The big turn for Viper there. He's still in trouble, of course, but oh, that went pretty well. Shard Shatter Skull. Looks pretty good to me.
Demons.
Can do different things like double Shard Shatter, but I think that is a lot of overkill to kill the Twilight Drake there. I think that's asking way too much. I think he can ignore the Twilight Drake to an extent if he doesn't get anything from the skull. I think drawing into some more burst is important.
Yeah, so one Apotheosis has been used, and you saw a Cleric get played, but the spell that was taken was played immediately, so you know that the other Apotheosis hasn't been directly tutored.
I'm shocked.
Looks like Thijs is going to Blade Dance this turn, then? That seems fine.
It's to push 5, still has that second swing of the Marrow Slicer, and still has, of course, the capability to play Skull next turn. Viper now, once again, on the back foot, facing down a loss here. Still has time to dig himself out of it, and another Cleric.
Yeah.
That helps him get there.
Cleric's back again. Again, I'm looking at that I-Beam potential from the Thought Steel, and obviously all of the wonders that Mage Scribe can give you here.
Must consider.
But the board needs an answer once again. Thijs is doing a great job of maintaining board here, which I think is what this play is about largely. Right, over going for the Skull is just as long as he has the ability to make a guaranteed board, he's just going for it. As long as he's threatening minions, he's attacking on 2 fronts.
Let me change your mind.
Oh, steal the charge apotheosis! That's so sick!
Sick. Might as well kill the 3-2. I was just looking at whether you can make a trade where you don't then die to the Shard Shatter Mystic, which is one of the few ways he has left to deal with your board without actually sending a trade into it and making you heal again, but it doesn't matter which one you kill in that world, right? The Shard Shatter still cleans you up.
Also, I-Beam on this 4-5 along with Shard Shatter is really nice.
Very nice.
Allows him to not have to consider even swinging into this. Gets 1 extra damage to the face. Keeps it clean. He's going to use the Shard Shatter first before the Skull, I imagine, because you can draw the fragments, of course.
Yep.
Makes sense. It's a win-win situation for both cards involved in that interaction. Thijs considering once again, what if he just plays 2 Mana Feeder Pantharas as River Crocs? Pushes for this turn. Next turn he can have War Blades into Twin Slice, Second Slice Hero Power. Looks pretty solid to me. I don't really know, especially after seeing that Apotheosis, what you would expect even Viper to have. It's also resistant to Soul Mirror.
So here's the thing, though, right? Is he has 2 Soul Shard Lapidaries left remaining in his deck. So aren't they actually more damage in your hand on average than they are on the board? Okay, playing 1 is very confusing. Yeah. This is the non-committal line. Like, you have 13 cards remaining, but 6 of them are Soul Fragments. So you have 7 cards remaining, so 1 in every 3.5 cards in your deck deal 5 damage.
That's true. But the times they don't, you could... Insane. Wait, do you know how to play the Mage Scribe here?
I mean, that's a lot of damage left on board, if you do.
Oh, I guess he can't wave, can he?
Right.
Dragon? Hothead into wave?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. No, none of those.
A little bit less impressive. I imagine that Alex Strauss is live.
Wait, what? 13 cards left in his deck?
Well, would he have picked it over Chrono that he could play?
I don't know. Okay, he's only missing Cobalt Spellkin, so he does have he has a top deck out.
Right, okay.
Has to be, right?
That just looks like lethal to me.
You never count.
No, I looked at it and was like, wait, so there's Twin Size Lapidary. There, looks like lethal.
Yep.
That's
You literally never count.
Viper held on for a while, but just couldn't quite get there. And honestly, I think the Consume Magic draw from Thijs to lock down that Twilight Drake turn was probably, for me, the turning point, right? It was such an easy batting it aside, like it was nothing. It was absolutely huge. And I think what led to Viper really being a struggle point towards the end of the game.
Yeah, certainly. I do think that was pretty brutal. I do think there are opportunities, though, for Viper to be a little bit more aggressive with those Twilight Drakes. I understand how devastating it is to not have an activator for your Cleric of Scales. And actually, largely that game, I think, I would have perhaps gone, okay, Twilight Drake on curve, just make a big 4/6. If you can't answer it, I'm threatening to counter pressure you out of the game. And I've got plenty more dragons left in my deck that I can use to activate these cards later, right? As it so happened, with double Kobold Spellkin being the last remaining card that was left in the deck, needed to activate the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, maybe he wouldn't have found those dragons in a timely enough manner at that point, but he did still pick up second Twilight Drake, he still picked up Draconic Studies. So I think that was an opportunity. And I think there was also potentially an opportunity for the very risky line that we were both kind of talking about, where you just didn't Wave of Apathy on that one turn and tried to bounce back with the Pyromancer. But I think the way Viper had that calculated did actually make sense, because he needed to be on turn 8 to actually have a good Pyro turn, right? Where that's the turn where he could then play Thoughtsteel and whatever other three, with the Apotheosis itself and the Thoughtsteel alongside everything else, and actually be able to clear the 6/4 with 4 Pyro spells. So spacing his way out to that point was probably quite difficult from his perspective, and that's what he was trying to do in the long run. And then obviously that mana burn, I think, for me, if you want to look at one outcome, the Consume Magic was important, but that mana burn was the most disgusting thing by far for me.
Yep, I have to agree with you on that one. Thijs, he's going to be locking in his Tempo Mage now. Does still have his Rogue left to get a win with, of course, but he was jamming his Demon Hunter 3 games in a row, finally got a win with it, now switching over to Mage. And this is, again, that list with that one Firebrand we've been seeing from him as well.
Yeah, he's been pretty steadfast with this list, I would say. He's bringing it to multiple weeks up until this point. It is, at its core, it's the Arcane Intellect Conjurer's Calling version, which is, one of the 2 core versions of the deck at this point. But he does find room for that one Firebrand in the deck, in the spot where a lot of other people would be playing. I guess he does still have the Devolving Missiles as well. So what is he actually cutting from the core list to make room for it? Can't even see it. Jandis? Jandis, I guess?
Sure, yeah. I guess, yeah. It's a pretty good opening from Thijs. Not only, though, 1 drop into 2, but also that Cram Session sat there that we might even see next turn. Are you a fan of that? Just banking the 2-mana draw 2?
I think I would have gone for it there, personally, yeah. I think card draw is extremely important against Priest, staying high on resources in general, and also when you have an Apprentice in your hand, you kind of just want to look for a Apprentice payoff, right? It's weird. Right. It's kind of this weird circular logic or self-fulfilling prophecy or whatever you want to look at it, because whenever you don't have an Apprentice in your hand with this deck, you're like, okay, I want to draw cards because I want to find Apprentice. And then when you do have an Apprentice in your hand, you're like, okay, I want to draw cards because I want to find things to do with my Apprentice. So yeah. It seems like no matter what the situation is, you just always want to draw cards.
And if you're going to draw the Solarian off the top with Coin Cram Session, then fine, you may hold on to it, Thijs, as this pair worked out very nicely for him.
Absolutely. Viper currently does have all the powerhouse options for the late game available here, though. Mirror's Soul Mirror, even Twin Tyrant is pretty effective in this particular matchup. He's starting to get some bad news about the quality of his opponent's hand right now. Primarily regarding that card on the left.
Yeah, it's even a tough call as to what to pick there, because although, of course, card draw is good, especially in Priest, I think you've got to give some respect to One Thief. Honestly, I think that could give Viper some kind of strange situations, which could be good. Arcane Breath does kill it, but with no dragon, and the fact that he has Brain Freeze anyway, I do like this Primordial Studies pick instead. Parablast.
Take the argument for any of them, but Pyro does seem to be the most universally picked in that situation, but I do think Counterspell is extremely effective going into particular turns, most obviously turn 7 from your opponent if you've actually managed to get ahead on board. Rolling Fireball is just such a powerful mid-range removal tool against basically everything they play, and I think that's actually worth some consideration as well. But most people do tend to be Pyro gamers in this matchup.
Yeah, it's because there's the thing that's, I guess, existed for a long, long time, maybe forever, outside of big Apotheosis minions, is Priest, although looks like the healing class, does not consistently heal for a lot, or at least how it's built at the moment, right? Outside of Apotheosis, of course. Even like the Renew, yeah, okay, you heal for 3. It's not like mind-blowing numbers, is it? So Pyroblast often does just get the job done if you have been ahead for a good chunk of the game.
Quickly.
Looks like a reasonable Cobalt.
A simple spell.
Yeah. It's kind of sad because you lose the discount on your bigger dragons, but yeah, I was about to say, what you can do is just roll straight back into Draconic Studies to pick that discount back up again, which I think is kind of the dream scenario here for Viper. Because just having access maybe to Twin Tyrant on 7 mana might just help him extend his Soul Mirror out further. He might just face down a board where he doesn't necessarily have to Soul Mirror, he can just make do with the Twin Tyrant. If it ends up going much later than that, he's going to be in trouble.
Might not end up going much later than that, though. Let's draw 3 with this cram session. There's the Prime. There's the second evocation. And Devolving. Wow! He's drawing all the good cards! Does he ever just play one of them now? I guess he doesn't need to.
But also, why not? Why wouldn't you play one there?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, like, if you've got 2, there's enough space to get enough spells that you can probably manage 1, right? And with that, plus Prime and the other one, are you really going to end up playing all 3?
Right. Yeah, I'd just be ripping that first one there and just looking for Font of Power and Magic Trick and Tome of Intellect and whatever else. Just fill up the hand while it's cheap to do so, while you have a Sorcerer's Apprentice in play and you don't actually have to pay mana for any of those things. Okay, this is a good creative solution to the problem from Viper right now after he's just seen the Devolving Missiles get played as well. It does involve him leaving up the Sorcerer's Apprentice for a turn, though, which is never a solution that you're going to be happy with.
Prime?
Wow, he actually just ramped that turn, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Years I have studied.
Oh, Frostbolt.
Hello? What is his hand now? Brain Freeze, Frostbolt, Double Potion? Yep. Good start.
Wait, doesn't he want to Brain Freeze? Or doesn't...
If he Brain Freezes, his board blows up.
Oh, the spell damage will be too much, right? Yeah. I thought you could just Brain Freeze it to 4, but it's 5. It's more, isn't it?
Yep.
More than that, it's loads. Is he just going to take it anyway? Surely not.
I mean, when you have a Pyro in your hand, I feel like throwing all those damage face is a pretty big deal. Okay, sure. There was also the argument just in terms of like I'm not sure whether he picked it or not. You want the Conjurer's Calling in that spot, I imagine?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, there's also the argument there of whether you want your board to blow up, because I guess if you lose your whole board, it doesn't matter, but play order there was kind of awkward when you look at the minions that he actually got back. He got back 1 Lab Partner and a 1 Thief, as opposed to, say, the Sorcerer's Apprentice that he might have actually wanted back in his hand more than anything else, but I don't think there was any real way to engineer that much better for him.
So before we just get the Prime played, there are options of this Firebrand plus a spell to deal with this 6/4 cleanly. It will obviously explode. You know, the minion will still do its death rattle, but it means Thijs doesn't have to play a Prime this turn. He's going to, because it's Prime and it's 7 mana. I feel like that's the rule. He did have other options.
Order.
Did Thijs not know that healed?
I mean, certainly if he searched his mind, he would know that healed, because of course it does. Like, everyone knows that. But if you're not,
that's why I was a bit surprised.
Yeah, if you're not actively thinking about it, it's something that you could actually forget. Certainly.
Sure. Twin Tyrant going to be pretty clutch, honestly. Some information on what that secret is. What it is not is Mirror Entity.
Oh, go ahead. No?
What did you say?
I was expecting you to drop the well. If that Arcane Intellect was a Conjurer's Calling right now.
I mean, it's true.
It is true.
I want to say with this many resources and the evocation number 2 in hand, that Arcane Intellect was not a choice. Just going to throw that out there.
You think it just roped out an auto pick?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Just because, like, look what his hands look like for most of the game. Like, does he need Arcane Intellect right now?
Yeah, I'm certainly willing to believe that.
Wow, this 410's actually a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? Do we have a confirmation on what the secret is, by the way?
The secret is a Netherwind portal.
So not mega impactful to Viper's plans.
No.
The fact that a secret exists is impactful, of course, but the actual secret, it is less so.
I mean, what's most impactful to Viper right now, and to the positive, is that he got through that entire onslaught from Thijs that looked like it was threatening to end the game without using his Soul Mirror, which is absurd to me. Like, I thought he was going to get pressured out of that Soul Mirror so quickly with how aggressive Thijs was being. But he found this like weird creative line with the Chrono Breaker, which involved leaving up a Sorcerer's Apprentice, which must have felt absolutely miserable. But somehow it's paid out.
Oh, I'm a little bit surprised with this.
They break so easily.
I was actually looking at Kaj on the Giant and then doing a Shadow Word Ruin.
Okay, yeah, I kind of like that, honestly.
It's just another layer that Thijs has to deal with like, if he pops the Death Rattle, then he's in trouble. He's still got a 410 to deal with because he's in trouble. This 1/8 can still be conjured, which is what scares me if I was Viper right now. This is still a huge threat, even though it's a 1/8.
Right. He is threatening 22 back the other way immediately right now, though, which I think is an advantage of the line that Viper's taken, for sure.
And also, with all these resources in hand, this evocation is unlikely to dig him out, as he just can't make the space for it to even work.
Yeah, I'm looking at the spell damage line this turn. So if you go Lab Partner, Arcane Explosion, that's 3 AoE. So the big boys have 5 health. And then your Raz can also do 3.
Would you not go Firebrand?
Doesn't work.
Potentially there?
I mean, the Raz is better than the Firebrand,
Oh, it just does more, right? Yeah, because the more minions survive. Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah.
So this cleans up everything except the big boys, but obviously the big boys are the problem right now. Oh, Cobalt Spellkin is a sketchy burn. Viper certainly will have wanted that one.
Yeah, and now there's like no great way to deal with this AA. I mean, trading into it is fine, obviously, but I feel like it doesn't really leverage the position that Viper had. I mean, you can just Kaj and trade, I guess.
Kaj, Apotheosis trade. Apotheosis for the value trade on the Raz. Sacrifice your other big boy.
Yep.
Go back to basically full health. Toss in a Holy Smite while you're there. Maybe you got a stew going.
Oh, that is a good point. There is Soul Mirror and Apotheosis on the Raz afterwards. Shout out to Abar for that one. That's pretty sick.
Is that good?
You heal for 1 million.
I mean, you heal for just as much by putting Apotheosis like on your minion, right?
This is cooler. You have a Raz with Apotheosis. 100% less cool of a play, but still, Soul Mirror and Apotheosis here was better.
Yeah, so I think if you're using the Soul Mirror, it is better to do it that way, but I do prefer overall the play that just doesn't use the Soul Mirror at all. But yeah, certainly a really, really difficult turn with a lot of possibilities.
Oh, jeez, as if we needed another one.
Yeah.
Rolling Fireball, gonna get the job done though. At least major job number 1, which is make this board a little bit more controllable.
Right.
Oh, the double ray! Killing off the Raz.
That's a big deal. Counterspell now in play, meaning probably Primordial Studies is the best card to throw away. Kind of garbage if you're not playing Mage, despite how insane it is if you are playing Mage.
Zephyr, Smite, Renew, all of these things are good Hearthstone plays that are going to generate Viper some more options going forward as well.
Oh,
this looks pretty solid.
Ray's dead.
Ray's dead into Raz. Ray's dead into Raz.
Ray's dead into Mana Giant.
Underwhelming.
Underwhelming.
Ray's dead into Lazul into Evocation?
Probably just Thought Steal.
How many? Are there more primes in the deck?
There are not currently, I don't think. No, there aren't.
Got both anyway. Got Mind Control and ended up with a Thought Steal.
Amazing. Alright, he's seen the Pyroblast. He's seen the Pyroblast. That's good information, and he is going to end up taking it. So they are now both threatening to Pyro Lethal on each other. Radiance is a huge pickup.
Good old-fashioned Hearthstone. Whoever Pyroblast first for lethal wins. Let's go.
Yeah.
Remember when that card was 8? Those were the days.
I do.
Is there ever like a weird Firebrand potion play this turn?
Firebrand potion, play the Firebrand that you just ended up with. Remember you have this Learn Draconic thing that you want to activate this turn as well, or like whether you do or don't want to activate this Learn Draconic this turn, because you could choose to just go for the biggest board flood possible and have like a Shenvala turn that also activates the Learn Draconic, and just say, hey, you know what, if you haven't like generated a plague with that mess of stuff that you've just done, then you have no chance of answering this board.
Works against me.
Guess this in the cold. Oh no.
Fight me, you get burned.
Yeah, he's gonna come. Okay. I was looking at it going, no, it looks pretty good actually, Thijs. It's like, oh no, I just wanted to sit there and make sure that's the play you wanted to make. But this is I think this is a reasonable sized board, right? It's threatening, but it's not any form of overcommittal, and still has the potential of a Shenvala refill.
Spells left in Viper's deck. He has, those 3. Yeah, that's it, right? Yeah, Shadow Word Death, Draconic Studies, Raised Dead.
Well, they nerfed Wave of Apathy.
You are a prisoner in your own body.
Not even a response? No? Okay.
Nope.
I thought you'd like that one.
It's literally my joke. I'm not going to laugh at you stealing my own joke
Well,
from
if you
like
don't
3
laugh at your
weeks
own
ago.
jokes, then they must be terrible.
I mean,
Like, normally that's one person you always rely on laughing at your jokes, which is yourself.
you just don't have my top tier delivery and comic timing, Raven. That's the problem. they just don't land when
Rewind
they're
the
coming
VOD
from
about
me.
34 minutes-ish, and you'll find that I do.
Okay. Meanwhile, huge swing turn with the Wave of Apathy and the Cabal Shadow Priest taking care of this 6/6. Thijs is going to cook up some more value here with the Potion of Illusion, which is a big deal, but it's not value that he necessarily needs to be worried about at this point, because suddenly his Pyroblast pick has come back to bite him, and he is only a few points of damage away from being blasted out of this game.
Yeah, and he just, especially because this Wave of Apathy, of course, but he isn't keeping up, is he? He isn't threatening the same kind of damage that Viper is right now.
He is now with this Shambhala turn, though. These last couple of Ray of Frosts that are going through, making a giant board at the 5/5s here.
Viper Shadow Word Ruin, though, is going to be able to bat that aside, honestly. Pretty big deal.
Doesn't answer the Shambhala itself, though.
So you're saying he should Pyroblast it?
No.
Delete the Shenvala. Well, he knows there's a second one, right? And it's only 1 mana, so
Yeah.
he knows there's going to be multiple waves of this anyway.
Yeah.
Could go fishing with Thoughtsteel, maybe find some more options. Or the Cleric, of course.
Yeah, I do think it starts with Thoughtsteel here. Okay. Mana Cyclone is a big deal.
Wait, does Silence do anything?
Silence
It
is...
can only push 6.
Yeah. Silence could push 6 here. But it also allows the trade on the Shambhala and cycles another card for the Mana Cyclone.
Oh, and also, yeah, this is nice because then the Ruin isn't as much of a problem, right? Killing your own 6/4 because it's done the job anyway.
Exactly. Or just saves the Ruin altogether. Okay.
I mean, he knows he's never dead, right? Ever. He knows there's a second Shambhala, so now he has the Ruin for the second Shambhala wave.
That's true. That's actually a really good point. Yeah, you're right. Oh, this one's close, Raven.
It really is, because we're still only a couple of freezes away from Thijs just doing the same again.
Yep.
But then there's a Shadow Word Ruin response, and then there's
Blizzard as
Evocation.
well. There's a Blizzard as well, and honestly, all Viper has to do here is stall for a few extra turns, and if Fatigue starts ticking for Thijs, he is going to be dead to that Pyroblast. Razor fine margins in this matchup. And although the stakes are not quite as high as what we saw in our first matchup of the day, the drama and the tension are very much there. Game's going down to the wire as we expect.
Both players making strong plays as well, right? Like, they're both just dropping everything on the board every single turn, but this keeps being just enough.
Yep. Thijs says, I would like some board space, please, to play this Mana Cyclone. Give myself some more value.
Well, not great, though.
No.
Those pickups weren't fantastic by any means.
Cram Session, absolutely not the one there.
Wait, no, okay.
It's just
Okay,
Twilight.
Viper...
It's just Twilight Drake Blizzard push 4, right? Like surely that's the play.
Let me look if Viper can have a Shambhala turn, okay? That's all I wanted to check.
Wait, what do you want to do?
Oh! Steal the Shambhala. Let me just look, okay? Sol, stop shooting me down early.
Okay, no, that is actually worth looking at, but I don't think it was.
Well, I wanted to look.
Okay. Okay. All right.
It's just funny.
I'm glad we talked about it though.
Yeah.
Now can we go to Twilight Drake Blizzard?
Yeah, it just looks good, doesn't it? It's just simple. Doesn't really leave much up for debate in terms of how Thijs can respond. Thijs just either deals with your board or makes another board of his own. Like that. Realistically, the two things he can do, both of which you're kind of okay with if you're Viper.
Does Thijs just have 7 Mana Cyclones in his deck? Like, what's happened this game?
Mage happened, Sol. Mage happened.
One of these 2 remaining cards is the second Mana Giant, by the way, with this Conjurer's Calling being stranded in hand for quite some time up until this point. It's very unfortunate from Thijs' perspective.
Yeah, I mean, he's got minions he could Conjurers this turn, right? He's had reasonable sized minions on board.
It's true.
Even a Shambhala token is a 5-drop, right? Like, that's okay. It's not great, but targets exist.
Oh my goodness, he survived this turn.
It's one off, right?
It's a Flame Ward, it's not a counterspell, and Viper will get that information, but if he attacks face, yeah, that is the smile of the man that says, uh-oh, what if that is a secret that does not play ball with me this turn? You just take a Pyro turn and clear the board, right? I think that covers every secret. If you trade the 1/1s into the 6/4, and then bank your 3 damage face, and then take a Pyro turn, is there anything that can go wrong at that point?
Well, what if you just take the 3 to the face first, leave 1/1/1 up, and then do the Pyro turn? Because he might just win. It could be Spellbender. It could be like Spellbender, right? Or it could be Entity, so on. I think this attack is fine.
Sure.
And then he can do Pyro.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's right.
I like letting him have the chance of, it's just lethal. He was
you're absolutely right. Yep.
Oh, we got Learn Draconic. Make sure he gets it done, though. Just press raise dead.
What has occurred here?
Did he
Viper,
mind vision?
please?
Yeah, he mind vision. Yeah, it wasn't in the hand.
I trust Casey to finish those turns. I have significantly less trust in Viper when it comes to roping out.
We summon you. No, not quite. I had to do it just for how cool the soundbite would have been.
Yeah.
Rolling Fireball. Can clean this up as well and leave all the pressure on the board. And Thijs, whether he has a inkling about Pyroblast or not, he knows he's not dead to it.
He is not currently, no, but this Shadow Word Ruin that Viper has so expertly preserved by finding more creative solutions to the board states is going to save his bacon here because it's going to deny all the damage coming back the other way at this point.
Even a Twilight trait to follow up with as well. Or actually, wait. Viper steals the thingy, right? Shadow Word Ruin and then steal the 1/1 with the Cabal. That'll get him the 1 damage.
I mean, he has the 1 damage next turn anyway because the fatigue draw will kick in, but sure. Your way does sound cooler.
Thank you. It's often the case.
Yeah. Stuart.
Into box.
Oh, it says explode.
All right.
Location. Into box.
He tried to play it before the game realized he didn't have enough mana. Oh, the Arctic defenders are so troll. Wait, he had Brain Freeze. He could Kartoot Brain Freeze his own Kartoot defender.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter now. Game's over. Pyroblast
wait,
steal from the Lazul.
Wait. I'm not having that doesn't matter. Does that win the game? That might win the game.
Would it win? Viper still has tons of stuff left. And Thijs still takes fatigue, and Kartoots aren't the highest damage output minions in the world.
But they do heal for 12 total, and Viper was also fatiguing. And Thijs also had a Pyroblast.
So, okay, so what would have to happen there was Brain Freeze to kill one.
Yeah.
That makes the other one pingable, so Viper then heals that one, so it can't be pinged. And then we would have to do fatigue maths.
Sure, okay.
Because then they could both wait, right? And in 3 turns of pings, he's probably within lethal range at that point, right? Of the Pyroblast, I mean. So that's, if we could, math it, we'd have to look at it. But yeah, that was pretty crazy. Thijs could have survived and given himself a chance there, but it doesn't matter now because it is over, it is done, and it is dusted. Viper takes the victory over Thijs and at least ends the season on some form of positive note to help out with some of the rough parts he had earlier in the season. Still going to end at the bottom of the table of Division A, of course, which puts him in that relegation bracket next weekend, but a nice ending at least for Viper.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, as I mentioned right at the start, I think it's very, very important just that he goes in a slightly happier mindset than he would have been otherwise going into the relegation bracket, right? Where he feels comfortable, he feels like he's back on top of his game.